Welcome to Halftime Report. Well, we're halfway through the trading session. It's a pretty flattish session for the Nifty, but the Midcap and the Nifty Bank are doing very, very well. I'm Nigel D'Souza, and joining me today is Reema Tendulkar. Good day, Reema. Good to see that, in fact, at least we're seeing an outperformance coming in from the broader markets.
Yes, absolutely. And, although the benchmark indices are flat, what it masks is the kind of recovery that we've seen even on the, Nifty as well as the Sensex. So if you pull up the Nifty, you would see it's recovered close to about 60 points from the low point of the day. And it's going to be a big earnings day, right? You've got Maruti, you've got Bharti Airtel, Interglobe Aviation, Colgate, among so many others, which will be declaring numbers, Nigel.
Well, that's right, Reema. But let's kickstart the show then, and we'll talk about plenty of stocks and sectors in the next 1 hour. For the time being, let's run you through all the top stories. The Sensex and the Nifty, they're choppy in a range-bound trading session. The Midcaps see strong gains. Stocks of power companies, cement and steel players gain, even as most financials remain under some pressure. Innocent Bank shares rise after the bank announces capital raising. Higher margins and lower slippages in Q1 to aid the up move. IDFC First Bank and Yes Bank too trade higher as their deposit base expands. RBL Bank shares slip after a higher start. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold a brainstorming session with bank and NBFC's chiefs. On the agenda, a roadmap for the future with focus on easing credit delivery and maintaining financial stability of the sector. Ahead of the meet, Bajaj Finance, Sanjeev Bajaj calls for a withdrawal of the moratorium, a one-time restructuring of option and discontinuation of local lockdowns. The stock of UltraTech Cement continues to gain after brokerages upgrade their target prices. From the mid-cap end, Tata Coffee and its parent, Tata Consumer, rise sharply after the coffee company posts a 26% rise in revenue and a 40% growth in EBITDA. Early indications of herd immunity building in Mumbai offers reason for optimism. A Sero survey of nearly 7,000 people by the municipal corporation shows presence of antibodies in 57% of the slum population and 16% from other areas. All right, let's kickstart the show. Then the markets are holding more or less flattish, but there are plenty of result reactions. So let's get straight to our movers and shakers segment. And we have Mangalam who joins in to tell us about Nestle, because that stock is doing a relative underperformance in trade. Mangalam.
Among the top losers on the Nifty today, Nigel, as far as Nestle is concerned, and if you went to a store at the start of the lockdown and could not find Maggie, that explains the sort of weakness that we saw in the company's quarter. The revenues came in at around 3,050 odd crores. The street was working with a number of 3,225 odd crores. Domestic revenues grew just 2.6% this time around. The street was expecting a number anywhere between 8 to 10%, primarily because, one, the packaged food nature of the company's business, and secondly, over the last 10-12 quarters, domestic business has grown at around double digits, or 10 to 12 odd percent. That was one. The second thing is that the company, saw a decline in the gross margins. The EBITDA came in much below expectations, despite them saving on other expenses, and as a result of which the net profit also came in lower. Management commentary, however, has been very positive. They believe the momentum is back with them towards the end of the quarter. They fixed all the supply chain issues, but at 64 times FY22 earnings, the street finds this as a reason to pause perhaps on the big rally that we've seen on Nestle.
Thanks, Mangalam, for that. Let's stick with earnings reaction. IndusInd Bank is doing quite well, but apart from numbers, there is that fundraising that the board approved yesterday. Abhishek is here with the details. Abhishek?
Well, Reema, as you mentioned, the board has approved a fundraising of close to 3,290 crores via preferential issue. So in this preference issue, there will be promoter participation as well as few investors like Route One, Tata Investment, ICICI Pru and AIA. So these investors will have 1 year lock-in, while the promoter and Hinduja Capital will have a 3-year lock-in. What this capital raising does, it increases the capital adequacy ratio by 125 basis points. Coming on to the results per se, you know, the moratorium book is now down to 16% versus 50% earlier. The slippages remained elevated more than 1,500 crores with an annualized slippage ratio remaining elevated at 3.1%. They had the highest quarterly write-off in terms of the gross NPA movement of 1,250 crore, despite which the gross NPA ratio is at all-time high of 2.53. Loan growth remained muted in line with what we are seeing with the economy. The low-cost deposit ratio, that's a 12-quarter low of about 40%. However, you know, they have been able to improve the margins to 4.28 when compared to 4.2% in the previous quarter. Back to you.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much for that, Abhishek. Well, let's talk about a couple of other names. Then UltraTech Cement. That's the stock that's doing well in today's trading session. Remember, we told you yesterday itself. On the top line, there was a beat out there. The revenues came at around 7,600 crores odd. That compares with a uphold of around 7,500 crores. That's despite the fact that the volumes were lower by close to around 30%. That was in line with what we were working with. In terms of margins, it looked much better. Margins came in at around 27%. That compares with nearly around 22% odd. So that was a big beat out there. Higher realizations, lower costs, both those two drove the margins higher. And besides that, the cherry on the cake was that they went ahead and they reduced debt by more than 2,000 crores in a rather difficult quarter. So tick marks on all fronts then. In terms of brokerages, well, CLSA, they upgraded the stock to Outperform. They've increased the target price from around 4,160 all the way to around 5,000 rupees. They believe the risk reward is favorable. And on the back of that, they've gone ahead and upped their estimates for the next couple of financial years by 10 to around 13%. Citi as well, they have increased the target price from around 4,500 rupees to around 5,000 rupees. They say the company is a top pick in the sector, coupled with ACC. So that's their reasoning. Credit Suisse, well, they maintain their Outperform. They've upped their target price from around 4,500 to around 4,800 odd. They're positive on the cement space on the whole, on the assets as well as favorable pricing. And finally, even Kotak, they came out with their buy rating. They've increased their target price from around 4,300 to around 4,600. So tick mark on all fronts. And in fact, brokerages, they're enthused as well. Let's hop across back to you, Rima, though. Tell us about a couple of these tech names. They continue to surprise on the positive side of things. Hexaware and NIIT Tech.
Yes, absolutely. You know, for Hexaware, Q1 was a beat. In fact, a very strong beat. They managed to, make sure that their revenue decline was less than about 1%. They expanded their margins, but you don't see it in the stock price, and that is because the outlook is a bit muted. Remember, Hexaware follows a calendar year accounting, which means they have Q3 and Q4 left in front. And there they're saying that, we will see a very small volume growth in Q3 and Q4, which came as a bit of a surprise for many people, considering that the management commentary, said that deal activity has seen a V-shaped recovery since the month of May. And deal wins for the company itself were very strong when you look at it on a year-on-year basis. So what was the reason for the muted commentary? When we spoke to the management earlier today, they indicated that there is still a lot of uncertainty, and that's what the guidance is baking in. But the stock which I want to really focus on is NIIT Technology, where despite weak numbers, the stock is zooming in trade. So Q1 was a clear miss. Their revenues fell by 6.8%. There was margin compression. The profits fell by close to about 30%. The key problem is the travel, tourism and hospitality sector, which is directly impacted by COVID, declined by 30% sequentially, and that is about 20% of their overall revenues. But the stock is surging because the company's guidance is very positive. They have indicated that in Q2, that's the coming quarter, they will at least see a 7% revenue growth and margins will go up by 150 basis points, which means for the full year, the company is guiding for a mid-single digit kind of growth, and the fact that they will continue to defend their margins. So for NIIT Technology, Q1 was a miss, but the outlook is very upbeat, which is what is pushing the stock higher. But lots of other earnings have come out overnight, and Sonal is here with a compilation of the stocks which are moving on the back of the numbers. Sonal?
Thanks a lot for that. A whole host of earnings. Let me start with Quest Corp. The company reported a weak set of numbers. The profits were down 36% on a YOY basis. That is something that we can see in the stock price as well. Let me talk about Tata Coffee. The numbers were really strong. Revenues went up by 26%, EBITDA up 40%. Also, the profitability higher by 77%, and margins also expanded by 220 basis points. Castrol reported weak set of earnings. No doubt about that. Revenues down 53%, EBITDA down 65%. Lockdown is something that caused steep decline in their volumes and revenues. However, the outlook is positive because we spoke to the management today and they said that they are seeing good pickup in June in agri and personal mobility demand, and also things are looking better and they expect growth to come back very soon. On the other hand, Sanofi reported very strong set of numbers. Yes, the revenues were impacted because of COVID. However, operating profit margins increased by 300 basis points. Profits also went up by 40%. That stock is up around 4 to 5% in trade right now. Back to you.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much for that, Sonal. Well, let's move on then. We told you first and now it's official. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be holding a meeting with Chief of Key Banks and NBFCs this evening to discuss a roadmap and the vision for the future. Ritu Singh joins us to fill us in with all those details. Ritu?
Prime Minister Modi will be holding a brainstorming session with banks and NBFCs later this evening to discuss and deliberate on a vision and roadmap for the future. We're given to understand that broadly there will be 4 themes around which bankers will be making presentations to the government, headed by Prime Minister Modi and several other key government officials that will be part of this meeting. Among the key themes are 1, digitization of financial services, credit-linked subsidy schemes, and the larger topic of revival of the economy. Now, as per the government's own press release, the topics on the agenda include credit products and efficiency models for delivery, financial empowerment through technology, and prudential practices for the stability and sustainability of the financial sector. We're also given to understand that heads of State Bank of India, Punjab National Bank, Bank of Baroda, Axis Bank, HDFC Bank, and among NBFCs, Bajaj Finance, HDFC Limited are some of the key players that are expected to join this meeting with the Prime Minister. We will be tracking this meeting very closely and update you with the outcome right here on CNBC TV 18.
Thanks.